Hey everybody, welcome back, and this is the Grognards Corner, the original Grognard himself, and we're trying something a little bit different today, as I think we've discovered I like trying to figure out new things and how to do the video cast and how to set it up, and just different things I like to do. And so you're getting a chance to see my bright, shiny, smiley face, and if the light's too much, you probably get a bad reflection off my widow's peak forehead. Doing the videos on the computer, my introduction, I spend a lot of time just talking, and you actually don't see anything being done on the screen because I'm not doing anything. I'm just kind of sitting here talking, leading up what I'm going to get to before I actually start getting into what exactly I'm going to be covering. So I figured and I figured out how to actually do this webcam as part of the cast. So we'll see how this goes. There may be a few people out there who say, "You got an ugly mug, don't do that." Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Feedback. Always need to have feedback. And I will admit, part of this is kind of inspired by Kev over at Big Board Gaming doing it on his video podcast, one of his video podcasts. So I figured, he can do it, I can do it too. So I contacted him. It's like, what video capture are you using? He said, OBS. It's like, OBS is what I'm using. So it's like, I went poking and peeking back into it and figured out, all right, we got the video up. You're seeing me in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. I could make it bigger, but I don't think I want to do that to you guys. Anyways, we are back taking a look at NATO Nukes and Nazis. I have completed the first turn of my playthrough of it, and there was a part of me that was kind of considering recording the playthrough of it, but it's probably a good thing I didn't. It took me about 2.5 hours to go through the entire turn, and most of it was me reading the rules and getting frustrated with the rules and getting up, walking around. And at one point I was so frustrated with my misconception of reading the rules the first time, I went in, had a soak in the tub, grumbled for a little while, soaked in the tub for a little while, let it stew in my brain, came back out, read the rules again, realized, yeah, I'm a pinhead and messed up the rules, and sat back down. I don't think everybody would like to see 2.5 hours of me just trying to read through the rule book and trying to figure out how to do my turns. I do want to get to the point where I am recording gameplay. What I may do is, movements and stuff like that, I'll go ahead and record out the movements. But when I'm getting down to the actual figuring combats, I'll probably cut the camera for that, because that's the long, boring part. So I did want to get into the rule that messed me up the most. I have said before, I am not a fan of supply rules. Yeah, okay, I get it. Strategic, operational levels, you kind of got to have supply rules. It doesn't mean I like it. So here I am, comprehending what I thought was the comprehension for the supply rules for NATO Nukes and Nazis. And I read it, and reread it, and reread it, and then I started to realize I had read it wrong. See, in my mind, I always assume, and again, I assume that's the problem, I know, that cities operate as supply centers. They do and they don't. In NATO Nukes and Nazis, these guys right here, supply units, are the only thing you can draw supply from. Those units have to be able to draw a supply line to a city, but everybody has to draw their supply from a supply unit, not just a city. Well, that kind of messed me up, because I wasn't prepared for this. I was thinking in my mind, well, as long as I can trace a supply line to a city, then I'm good. No, I've got to trace a supply line from a unit to a supply center, who then has to draw it to a city. Well, that makes things a little bit difficult, because if you have units that land, let's back this map up a little bit, land in the ports here along the coast, and if they only have a movement of 3 or 4, they're not going to have supply range to the supply centers unless you have supply centers way in the back. Which, if you know that rule, you probably would have been smart enough to put some supply units in the back. I, however, was not. All my supply units are up in the front, supporting the units up there. So Now, granted, a unit that lands by naval movement reinforcements and such have supply for the first turn that they land. But if they don't get into supply in that first turn, they're no longer in supply the next turn. That movement is halved. Okay, so, and I'm looking at the supply lines of some of these, because the way supply works is you take the unit's movement, and you have that many movement points to be able to trace it back to a supply center. Okay, so say we take this unit right here, 6th Panzer Grenadier Division, 6 movement points. I got 6 movement points to get back to a supply center. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 to get to that supply center. Now that supply center has 4 of its movements to be able to get it back to a city that they can draw a supply line. So, 1, 2. That's not a problem. And fortunately, most NATO units can draw supply from other nationalities unless a random event crops up. But I started noticing, and I actually had to do a little caveat imperator and not a caveat imperator, a Deus Ex Machina, and go back and move some of my supply centers around, because a lot of my units weren't even in supply because of my misunderstanding of the supply rules. So, understanding supply now, all right, yeah, I kind of get it. You need to draw supply. It's supply. I don't like supply. I get it. Had to shift some units around, but it's really easy for something to get out of supply, because I was kind of looking at, if we look at all these German panzer divisions, it's like, all right, well, I got 6 movement points, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, he can make it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that's barely making it. And 1, 2, 3, 4. That can if Rotterdam wasn't there, I don't think I'd be able to draw supply from the first L supply unit there. So it's an annoying thing to pay attention to. Like I said, I don't like supply, but it's there. It's something you got to be aware of. And the biggest thing that came into my mind is you have the 6th and 7th, 6th Marine Division, 7th Mountain Division that the American NATO gets as reinforcements. And so I'm thinking, well, we've got the Germans all over the place with their air lion invasion. It's like, maybe I should drop them there, but it's like, wait a minute. Where's all my supply lines? Okay, I've got one supply unit. Where is my supply? Oh yeah, the supply unit right there. So I can draw it from that UK supply unit, but if I land it like up here in Birkhead, they've only got a movement of 3, 1, 2, 3. They'll be out of supply at the end of the first turn. And I could land them right here. In I think, what is that? Sorry, I want to say Bristol, but I don't think that's Bristol. And then that would put them in range, and I was thinking, it's like, well, we've got some partisan units down here. Maybe I should land them back here, Le Havre or, Bayeux, Cherbourg. But the closest supply unit I have is way up here in Paris, and they'd be out of supply. So I eventually ended up just landing them at Dunkirk and trying to rush them forward to try to shore up the rapidly falling back British Army of the Meuse, because I believe, there's a Belgian supply unit right there. It fortunately is able to keep all this stuff supplied. Now there are random events where you cannot draw supply from Allied resources. That's going to be scary if and when that shows up, because I've got plenty of supply units out there. Let's see. So basically, we've got this one Belgian supply unit right here, which is supplying all of the British Army of the Meuse, the Belgian forces, and what's up in Belgium. We've got the Spanish supply unit right here, which is able to, and U.S. supply unit, which is keeping most of this supplied. I had to move this French unit here because I had nothing supplying any of these southern French troops, and it's like, well, I wouldn't have, had I known that at the start, I wouldn't have done it. So I had to shift this French supply unit down here. I got another French supply unit here. So this unit, I think, is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, he's within range. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, he's just barely in range. And where is he drawing supply from? It's a supply unit. 1, 2, 3. Okay, he's drawing it from there. Or actually, I could draw it from one of these two, Nancy and Metz. Um, but yeah, so supply the supply rules are only like 4 paragraphs long, 5 paragraphs long, but I found it to be just completely frustrating to me, and that's one of the hazards of playing solitaire is that if you make a bad mistake and you don't catch it, you're going to continue playing with that bad mistake. However, I like playing solitaire, and it's pretty much the only way I can play. Anyways, so that's my rant about the supply rules. I can't fault the rules of the system. It's my own inability to comprehend and wrap my mind around it because, again, it's supply, and I don't pay attention. I don't like paying too much attention to supply rules. So anyways, let's talk about what happened in the first turn. In the first turn, the Germans, the Nazis got total air surprise and did a very, very big, nasty air raid on NATO tacticals. Ended up destroying, just flat out destroying 4 squadrons of tactical fighters, which hopefully will be helpful here in the future. The Allies were, because of the surprise, weren't able to do intercepts. So basically, the German air power had free reign to just bomb the bejesus out of the airfields. So that was kind of good. So we're looking at a few less tacticals, although we're taking a look at the Canadians and the U.S. actually did get some reinforcements that are going to be available turn 2. So that was pretty cool. We'll go with Operation Luftwaffe, Air Lion. Actually went off a lot better than I thought. Managed to get paratroopers in. Those 2 paratroopers capture. Okay, there's Bristol, Cardiff, Swansea. Basically, and Portsmouth, locking those ports down so American reinforcements can't come up there. So American reinforcements are going to have to land in Blackpool, Liverpool, Birkenhead, or right here in London. Landing up here puts them way out of supply unless I want to try to move that supply unit further north, which I'm probably not going to do. So any more American units that are going to land are probably going to land right there in London. Stacked up in parts of London and Portsmouth across the river. So if they want to come to me, they're going to be attacking across that river. As it stands now, the British just do not have the forces on the island raised yet to be able to really start pushing the Germans out of London, which is fine. The German troopers are going to be quite content with just holding terrain. I don't think they're going to really want to attack across the river either, because they don't really have the strength either. I mean, attacking across a river is a 2-column shift. Attacking into a city is a 3-column shift. So there's not going to be a lot of attacking across the Thames. The Brits, they're going to get some reinforcements. They're going to have to build up some forces. They're probably going to have to rely on some American reinforcements, big heavy armored divisions, before they can even think about trying to push the Germans out. This did net them several 6 victory points for taking, or political points by capturing cities. Let's see if I can find it. The German Death Commandos, the Totenkopf, the Beider Meinhof commandos right there, managed to pull off a successful terror attack, but only shifted the political index by 1. So we figure, the Brits are very steadfast and, stiff upper lip in the face of adversary anyway, so they're not worried about the Beider Meinhof commandos running rampant through London trying to blow up stuff. So that's basically Luftwaffe. I was very satisfied how I was able to land everything, and it's going to keep the Brits in the units in the UK tied up for now and force reinforcements to be diverted. Now, the good thing, supply-wise, we do have this Hermann Göring air unit, or helicopter supply unit right there. It's got a range of 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I can reach... Oh, God. I did that wrong. I absolutely did that wrong. These guys have to be able to reach. Okay, those 2 paratroopers are out of supply. Oopsie. He, however, is not. He can trace it back, and I messed that up too. Oh no, I can air supply. I can air supply into there. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna have to go back and reread the supply rules again. I think my 2 paratroopers here are out of supply. I'm fairly certain that they're out of supply. Crap. Oh well, we'll check that later. Like I said, we are not a professional. All right, so let's take a look at Schlieffen Point 3.0. Stacked up a bunch of German Wehrmacht, Panzer, and Panzergrenadier divisions. The first thing that kind of went off really good is I had a partisan unit right here in Antwerp. They successfully did an uprising, pushing the British units that were there out, which allowed German panzer divisions to roll right into there with no problem. Also, since I noticed I could stack units here, because these 3 hexes are actually part of Greater Germany as well, allowed me, and as you can see, we have, for the most part, we encircled Ghent and Brussels. Now, I had a panzer division right here where these NATO partisans are at. The operative word being had. The Belgians and British had like 3 divisions trapped in Ghent and Brussels. And basically, the surviving British Army of the Meuse and the Belgian units that were not trapped, basically that MP unit, that Frontier unit, that Belgian mechanized, and the British 3rd Armored and Belgian 3rd Frontier, basically threw everything they had into attacking this hex and managed to crack it open, destroyed the Greater German Panzer Division that was there, the Grosse Deutschland Panzer Division, shattered it, opened up a corridor, and allowed the 3 divisions that were trapped here to fall back. We're going to be losing Brussels, we're going to be losing Ghent, but it's better than, well, we're probably going to lose them anyways because they were cut off with no supply, and we're going to lose those divisions. Casualties were pretty bad for the British and Belgium side. The Canadian the Canadian mechanized division that was there, gone, completely wiped out. The German 3rd and 4th armored divisions, heavily casualties. 1st armored division still intact. There was a electronic warfare brigade that the Brits had there. It's gone. It got overran. There were a couple of Belgian frontier divisions that got overran. But as you can see, huge, massive blow to the British Army of the Meuse. They have fortunately been able to pull back most of their stuff intact, and as you've noticed, French armored has arrived. American and French Marines and U.S. Mountain Division has arrived, kind of closing, keeping the Germans contained. The biggest problem is right around here in Liege. We got a lot of mechanized divisions that are just going to pour through this gap, I have a feeling, right here. We're going to have the armored divisions probably shore up this line, but these units over here are just gonna pour through. I don't think the Portuguese and this Belgian mech infantry are going to be able to hold the shoulder for the Americans for very long. And so we got a bad gap right here. We're going to see a lot of Germans pour through that more than likely. And it was great because up here the Wehrmacht, where they were rolling 4s, 5s, 6s, great dice rolls up there. So that was super. So let's come down to the SS down at the Luxembourg Gap and the Southern Plains. The SS are probably starting to realize that they are not the supermen they thought they were. That the American tenacity to hold on is much greater than they had assumed. Virtually no advances anywhere made through the Luxembourg Gap. As you can tell, pretty much the lines are still the same, and we have three SS Panzer divisions that have taken casualties, and we're not seeing much in the way of U.S. casualties taken. I will say the U.S. 5th Cav division was wiped out. That was probably about the only one that was wiped out. The only big advances actually came from these two stormtrooper units that hit the right flank over here, managed to wipe out I think it was a half-strength mechanized division, but took heavy casualties in their own right. I was basically rolling 1s and 2s all along the border for the SS, so You know, I had a bunch of helicopter units that were there. You know, German heavy helicopter, the Hussaria. In my mind, I call them the Hussaria helicopters, because you figure, you know, Germany would probably develop their helicopter program along the lines that the Soviets did, with, you know, heavy Hind-style helicopters. So I call them the Hussarias. I've got a whole history of the weapons and, you know, what equipment everybody's using, but we don't want to get into that. So these two stormtrooper units actually were about the only advances that they were able to make. The SS unit couldn't push the French units out of Strasbourg. You know, I was able to damage one mech unit there, but again, it's all up and down the line. The SS have done jack over crap, which is quite amusing because, you know, the Wehrmacht up here have made better advances than, you know, all the SS combined, pretty much. So I just got to sit back and think, you know, the SS are probably doing a huge, massive command shakeup right now because their performance was highly underrated, and they're being basically shown up and embarrassed by their Wehrmacht brethren. So you can just imagine the political hoopla and uproar going over that. For the most part, you know, I think if this was just the only theater, this was the only forces, the NATO forces could hold with no problem, hold out probably indefinitely. The problem is they've got this big hole that the Wehrmacht armor is going to be pouring through. And the Germans actually do get like 6 reinforcement divisions, and I'm probably going to pull a couple divisions off the Eastern Front. It's going to be tight. We're going to be splitting the lines here, and I don't know if the British Army of the Meuse, with the Belgium, French, and U.S. support, are going to be able to hold. I have a feeling they're probably going to be pushed back into France. I have a feeling that by the end of this next turn, most of Belgium will have fallen to the German forces. Again, I really don't see much advances happening down here. The only way any advances are going to happen here is if, you know, we're going to have to start shifting forces to face the threat from the Wehrmacht up north. I got a message from Dave Lamb. You remember how I was saying, it's like, well, you know, I hope Italy doesn't come in. Yeah, well, evidently one of the random events is Italy jumps into the war. It's like, great, that's going to be a bad thing if that happens. We don't want to see that happen. We'll pray it doesn't happen. So, managed to get the political index up to 75 for the Germans. 25 more points and they win I don't see them getting much more points. It's going to probably stabilize here right now. Rolled for random events, rolled horribly, horribly bad. Rolled a 2, which was almost the worst I could roll for the random events. Basically, what all happens? They call it, I think it was German Schism, where I got to roll a dice for every German unit I want to move. On a 1, it doesn't move. On a 2 or 3, it only gets half movement. On a 4, 5, or 6, it gets its normal movement. Partisans, NATO partisans pop up everywhere, so I've got friggin' NATO partisans all over the place now. The Nazi Arab alliance was defeated, and Israel is now rushing reinforcements. So next turn, there's going to be a bunch of Israeli reinforcements showing up. Great, just what we need, Israeli armored divisions to face the Germans. Managed these little units, this 1 bracket 1-4, these are called underground units. They're commandos or partisans. They can move through enemy units with no problem. So we're seeing a couple American and NATO commando units starting to slide into Greater Germany, and we're going to see what kind of havoc they can cause in the background. But yeah, that's the status at the end of turn 1. Having fun with it so far. It is actually a fun game if I can get around the supply rules. I'm going to have to go back and read those again. I really think I messed up with my air mobile stuff. Oopsie. So, like I said, I'd love to be able to sit down and film this while I'm doing the turn, but I haven't got a firm enough grasp of the rules yet, so it's going to take a while to get through each turn, and I'm not sure how many people are going to really be excited about watching me hit the rule book every few seconds while I make my decisions and try to figure things out, but we'll see. Maybe I'll just edit it down. That's all I got, folks. Hope everybody likes this new way of me doing the videos on screen or on the computer. And as always, feedback, comments, questions, complaints, concerns. You know how to get a hold of me. I'll talk to everybody later. Bye.